There it is, HB8 carbon fiber version, and we're building this up today. We've got the Naza all tucked away. We've got the camera line shortened. We've got the video feed line shortened because we didn't want to cut any lines and customize them. So this is a video in for 2 channels for the IOSD Mark II, and power on this side with all the other power cables so that we've kept them separate. And we'll put a little foil on the side of the Naza perhaps to isolate it. But we've got the receiver in. We're going to put one antenna up, one antenna is going out the bottom. We've got our LED V-send here so that we can see the light through the bottom like on the other HB8. We've got our transmitter wrapped, probably too long, the cables. So we will shorten these down perhaps, or just maybe bundle it up or fold it. It's just a nylon fabric, so that will be folded up, and then this will be coming out the top. Put the cables through one of these 2 holes here in the top plate, so it's coming out the top, and then we're going to mount the receiver on the tail of the HB8 here. Now we could mount it up beside the battery as well on the side here, depending on where you might want it. You could have it there, or you could have it lying down sideways like that, with the over the rear arm, or on the tail like we are, like that. So it'll be mounted there in between the 2 pivoting arms there. So we'll zip strap it with the holes that are here already. And another option would be to get an extension for your SMA. Run the SMA to this hole here, thread it through this hole, and run the extension to wherever your video transmitter is inside the body, where you could probably tuck it back here but it would stick out. You might want to put it up in the front here behind the camera and then run the line back, or just use one of the gimbal holes for the antenna post. It's up to you to do that if you want. We've got our power feed lines here. Really simple wiring harness. Not so much, I can say, for the Naza, which is quite a drag having 2 of the XT connectors, for me at least, being a Dean's guy. But the XT connectors are good. They're bullet connectors basically, so you can adapt it with bullets if you have to. But we've got the 2 fed here. We've got our ESCs fed direct from our battery inline here, which is a 2-piece cord, and marked on the end for positive, negative, but you can't plug it in backwards if it's using the same Dean, so that's fine. This will come up to the battery. This is all waterproofed here, and this joint is also drying and is waterproofed with rubber, so that we'll have our feeds positive and negative to each side. Got those and those. That's for our legs. We might have to tuck these in. Maybe I'll cut them down a little bit, depending on how we end up with the final line through the leg here. Now you can see here I've got a little bit of extra on this, so we won't need all of that. You can see it coming through the other end here to feed the motors. So having that much, plus there's about 2 inches of motor lead, DC lead into the ESC, sorry. So you'll have that to tuck in. So you might want to make this a little shorter, and then when taking it off of the body, disconnect this bullet connector from the zip-tied coordinated connector here. So might tuck them back this way, and then fed up through the front like that. So that's up to you how you want to decide to do that. You could run wires straight out, all one piece, which would be good if you were keeping the format that you've decided on. Otherwise, having bullet connectors allows you to put shorter arms on and that kind of thing if you want, and access to these is important if you're going to do that. So we've got these here at the back as well for feeding the 2 wires at the back. The back's a little easier to get into because we have 27 millimeters there, and you can actually disconnect these from the side once you've loosened the leg off and pulled it out. So there it is, all tucked in, ready to get lit up tomorrow. The actual OSD works and all of that. We tried that today, and we got good image out of the camera, which is protected by the 2 brass standoffs at the front, and will be mounted in between here with a zip tie perhaps around it, or double-sided tape in there. You could also put a large piece of foam on the top of the camera, and with the compression of the top plate, you could actually keep it in place permanently like that. And then when you take the top plate off, then you'd be able to move the camera around. But there is a flat surface on the top and the bottom which I recommend to use for aligning it, and that will keep it centered and straight. So there's the HB8. Hopefully I'll get a couple of shots of it when it's complete and the maiden flight tomorrow, if the rain stops. But it's been really fun to build this one, and I'll tell you, I learned a lot about Naza V2 today, and it's really, really durable. Let's just say it's forgiving in some ways. If you do wire something wrong, then it might not necessarily destroy it, but be careful how you wire it up. Be really careful with your connections and all your positive and negative leads. So that's my tip. There's a lot of wires involved as opposed to the Naza version 1. And especially when you start adding things like the OSD and the GPS, of course. So GPS wire will go through the top slot here as well, or this side, depending on which side's easier, and plug in there as well once we put the top back on, as with the connectors for the fatshark transmitter. So there's the HB8, guys. Have a good night.